In a typical morning, a group of fishermen set out to sea. Fishing in the Gulf Stream was in full swing, and the people worked hard to catch enough fish for their clients. At first, everything went as usual. The men caught the first fish and had nothing to complain about. However, what they experienced that day they would never forget for the rest of their lives. Suddenly, one of the fishermen stopped and stepped back. There was something in the water, and it scared him so much that he almost fell out of the boat. It was a shark, but not just any shark. It was the biggest shark he had ever seen, and the frightening part was that it was slowly and menacingly moving towards the boat. After recovering from the initial shock, the fisherman looked more closely at the colossal creature. He noticed something strange. The shark was moving extremely slowly and had a huge, unnatural lump on its body. This was not the first time the man had seen a shark, and he immediately realized that the lump was not normal. This observation seemed strange to the rest of the crew as the predatory fish continued to circle the boat. The men were frightened, they didn't know what to do. On one hand, they felt that something was wrong with the shark, but on the other hand, it looked very scary, and the fishermen wanted to leave as soon as possible. In the end, they decided that the best thing they could do was to call a veterinarian. Fortunately, they knew a doctor who was very knowledgeable about marine animals of this kind. He explained that the shark might be pregnant and would give birth near the beach. To confirm the veterinarian's guesses, he asked the fisherman to describe exactly where the lump was located. However, this was easier said than done, as the shark's movements made it even more difficult for the fisherman to diagnose the problem. Eventually, the men managed to determine the exact location of the lump and reported their findings to the veterinarian. At that moment, the mood changed. If the lump was due to pregnancy, it would be located much further along the body. However, the swelling was roughly at the beginning of the stomach, which meant that it had to be something other than pregnancy. The shark clearly had something inside her that she should not have swallowed. But what was it, and how could they help an animal that was swimming so threateningly in the water? The veterinarian made it clear that he would likely need to perform emergency surgery if the shark was to survive. They had to get the colossal creature to shore and treat it as quickly as possible. There was no time to waste, everything was happening rapidly now. The veterinarian immediately contacted an organization that specialized in rescuing sharks. At the same time, he also went out to sea with his small team. The fishermen had to keep an eye on the animal during this time and could not afford to lose sight of it. But this was easier said than done. The fishermen had to keep the shark in sight so it wouldn't swim away. However, they also had to avoid drawing too much attention to themselves to not put themselves in danger. Most of the fishermen wondered whether it was worth doing this at all. What if the shark attacked them? Was it worth risking their lives to help a wild animal? But one brave member of the group stepped up and took charge. He assigned roles among the men and managed the situation. By throwing small pieces of fish into the water, they kept the shark nearby. When the boat with the veterinarian and a large rescue ship arrived, they took control of the situation. They needed to haul the shark onto a large platform next to the rescue vessel. This task was not easy, even for experienced people, as they rarely had to deal with a creature of such size. The rescuers tried to pull the shark onto the platform using massive fishing lines and hooks. They had to exercise extreme caution and calmness to avoid injuring the animal. The razor-sharp teeth frightened the men, but they still tried to remain calm and stick to the plan. One brave soul agreed to stand on the platform and hold the animal. Finally, the team managed to stun the shark and secure it on the platform. But the next part of the rescue operation was no less dangerous than the first. The veterinarian finally managed to examine the large lump on the shark. His suspicions were confirmed. Inside the shark's body was an object that could not be digested by its digestive system. The animal needed urgent surgery, otherwise it was in danger of dying. When the doctor discovered the object, people could not believe their eyes. This finding particularly shocked the fishermen, as they could have been the cause of the animal's suffering. Even though they were fishing to process the catch later, the men would have seen themselves as animal lovers. You would never consciously inflict unnecessary suffering on an animal. It was a bag full of fishing bait. Someone probably lost it at sea, and the shark mistook it for food because of the smell. After the bag was removed, the veterinarian quickly began to stitch up the shark. In the meantime, he tagged the shark with a chip to track its movements and see if it would survive the operation. Then they waited for the shark to wake up after recovery. For some time, it was finally released into the sea. In the following days, the shark covered a surprisingly short distance. However, after a few months, it behaved completely normally, and the veterinarian could confidently say that the operation was successful.